to go through how to position yourself for success, and then we're going to walk through three main areas. The first is why are we doing this Facebook Live? Why am I sharing this information with you? Which is how to predict a slowdown. And for some reason, there's a slowdown that is predicted, and there are two different views of schools of thought which say that maybe India is going to rebound after this whole disease situation much faster than the other countries. And then there's the other school of thought which I subscribe to, which says there is going to be a slowdown. So how do you predict a slowdown? How do I predict a slowdown? I'll share with you some examples. Maybe they make sense to you. And the second thing is how do you negotiate through a slowdown? What are some of the things that you ideally should do? If you're a corporate professional, this applies to you. If you're a pure professional, which is like a doctor, a lawyer, or CA, or somebody like that, this applies to you. And if you have a small and medium-sized business, this will apply to you. This may apply to you. And then what exactly you can do in order to ascend the food chain, which basically makes you a little bit of recession-proof or future-proof. Now, these are some of the things that are coming down from my prior experience, and by no means is this gospel truth. Like I said, I don't have like an MBA degree or anything, so I only talk from my experience and from what I've seen in the industry across three geos. So I worked in India, in the US, and in the Philippines, and whatever learnings I've got, I'm kind of sharing them. So it would be great if you can keep the comments coming. Some of the items you may agree with, some of the items you may not agree with, and that's totally fine. And then at the end of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this mind map as a PDF, and I'm going to share it in our mastermind group, which is facebook.com/groups/startup frat. So if you're not already in the group, I think that's a good time to apply for subscription. And mostly we accept almost everybody that applies, and I'll be sharing this PDF inside the group. So if you're not subscribed, absolutely you must apply for subscription. I highly recommend that. Okay, real quick, now how do you predict a slowdown? How do you figure out this thing is going to work, this thing is not going to work? The way we do this is the first thing is demand versus supply. You figure out whether industry is going up or down based on the demand supply equation. So if the demand for a particular skill set or a particular product is high versus the supply of that particular product or skill set, then that industry or that skill set, the price for that skill set is going to keep going higher. There's a lot of scope in that industry. On the other hand, if the supply is high and the demand is low, then it's not a good reason. Then you need to evolve. You need to figure out how to do something different in order to stay in business. So what's happening in India is very, very interesting. For the educated class of people, the people who are who hold fancy degrees, etc. There is in India, this is specific only about India. It may not apply to other places, right? In India, there has been a systematic democratization of education, which is good for everybody, but it has led to a glut of oversupply in the educated market. This especially applies to doctors, especially applies to engineers, it especially applies to chartered accountants, lawyers, etc. You've had a boom in the number of colleges that offer these degrees, a boom in the number of universities and deemed universities that offer these degrees, and pretty much everybody that wants to become a doctor and engineer can find a college seat and actually collect that degree. Now, what happens is that the supply of educated workforce in the Indian economy has overtaken the demand by miles, right? And for example, in the medical setup, I'll just talk about that because I belong to that background. The number of super specialty hospitals that have come up is not commensurate with the number of super specialized doctors that are there in the market, right? So what happens in that situation is the overall price or the overall income group falls. The demand falls, the demand with relation to supply falls, and the overall income group falls. It is very difficult to make it in private practice even if you have a big degree. The same thing applies to lawyers, the same thing applies to engineers, and the same thing applies to chartered accountants. for engineers, the glut is so much that even for the last 20 years, mostly all the engineers are basically have gravitated towards either management jobs or sales jobs because of the oversupply. So education in India has been kind of a double-edged sword, and the democratization of education has made the overall pay ranges for all of these lower. So there is a saying that I follow. It was I think it was said by Dan Kennedy, one of the marketing gurus. Was it Dan Kennedy? I think it was Dan Kennedy, and he said, "Don't ever be just another fill in the blanks yourself." So that's what's happening. So if you're in the professional segment, you may have felt that. Now, what happens in the corporate setup? In the corporate setup, the demand was artificially high because of cost arbitrage. Cost arbitrage is if an American or a British company or a German company sets up its offices in India, they will get access to qualified workforce, again because of the education glut, and they will be able to, they get a benefit because they don't have to pay someone on site who will probably charge more. Now, if you look at the pay scales, the way the pay scales have risen over the last 20 years, an average pay scale in the mid segment in India is commensurate, equivalent, or just about thereabouts to an American pay scale. So in the US, if you're living in a tier 1 city, if you draw $60,000 a year, it's considered pretty good. And then they may have commissions, etc. on top of that. That equates to about 40 lakhs a year in India. Now, if you look at the Indian pay scales, pretty much everybody is in that pay scale. They may be lower. Some people may say, well, yeah, but the level of jobs people do over there at 60 grand USD a year, over here in India, the cost is pretty less. Yeah. But as compared to 20 years back, an Indian employee was 1/20th or 5% the price of an American employee. Today, they must be maybe half or maybe 3/4. So when I use the word commensurate, means that the cost arbitrage has not been commensurate, which means it has been declining sharply. And if you add on management costs and the headache of managing teams, that are working in a different geography, it may or may not make sense for a whole lot of foreign companies to maintain their heavy workforces over here in India. So the loss of cost arbitrage is not a good sign. So the demand supply situation in the industry is not good. Now, before I move ahead, I will tell you upfront that I have in my social circle a lot of very, very serious stock analysts and market prediction people whose business or whose job it is to actually look at the market and predict. And many of them say, no, India will not be impacted by this and India will kind of move out successfully. So there is a whole different school of thought. I personally don't subscribe to that school of thought. So I say better be safe than sorry. So do not take my advice as gospel truth. This is just my point of view. The second thing is, in industry, if you look at the ticket size of different products and services being consumed, at the end of the day, the consumer has to pay for your salary or your income or your business income or whatever it is. The consumer, the format in which they consume certain products and services has changed drastically in the last 10 to 15 years, and this is across the board. This has been happening over a longer period of time in the Western world, but it has happened in India in a much more sharp curve, in a much more dramatic fashion. So, for example, think about something like a financial planner. Right, if you're in that industry, if you're a financial planner, if you have a relationship with that industry, there were financial planners who used to come to your house and educate you about the different options to invest in the market, and then based on their advice, you would balance your portfolio, etc. The delivery format has changed so much that the consumer does not want to spend their time. They don't want to spend 30 to 60 minutes sitting down with somebody and getting educated when they can actually find that information online on Money Control and basically just go ahead and invest in a mutual fund via the CAMS app or something. So the democratization of the educational service that a financial planner was providing has, the change in format has basically put all those people either out of a job, or the level of stress is so high because they have to go and make an in-person sale to somebody who's willing to buy without their personal presence anyway. So the delivery formats of things are changing, and if you stick with the old delivery format, you may not be in a great situation. Similarly, think about industry-wise delivery format of food People would like to go to restaurants earlier, and today they're like, I'll just order in and probably open a beer at home. Think about entertainment. The delivery format of cinema halls will very soon be obsolete, because over a period of time people realize, especially during the slowdown, it's real fun to actually sit down with family that I haven't sat down for a while with, and it's great to do Netflix, and it's great to open a beer at home. And the delivery format is going to be impacted because there is no real value going to a cinema hall. In any event, cinema halls actually lose money on the actual screening of the movies. The only thing they actually make money on is the 400 rupee popcorn, right? So if a new law comes in that says that no, the cinema halls cannot force you to buy their popcorn, you can actually bring in your own burger in a parcel into the cinema hall, then they're pretty much out of business. So the delivery format of different things is changing. People are more happy consuming entertainment in the comfort of their own homes. People are more happy taking financial decisions from the comfort of their app or the CAMS app. Health, look at primary health. People don't really go to a doctor anymore if they have a flu or if they have a fever. They just go online. They see, okay, I'll probably buy a paracetamol or something. You have the 1mg app, which basically will educate you about, all you need to do is literally put a symptom in there. It'll tell you these are the things these are the things that could be the possibilities, these are the medicines, these are the contents of the medicines, this is the safety level, these are the side effects. And for basic things, you can pretty much take your own decision. So if you're a doctor who's providing who's a general practitioner, it's not looking very good for you. If you're a lawyer who's providing basic services or chartered accountant, people know more about taxes today than they knew 10 years ago, and they like to check things online, they like to fill in their own IT returns, etc. So the delivery formats, if you're staying in the old delivery format, if you don't change your delivery format, it's going to impact you. Okay. So typically a lot of people will then ask me, okay, Rajat, so maybe the competition is higher in this market and the demand is commensurately not scaling that much. So would you recommend I go into a market which has lower demand, which has no competition? And that's not the idea I'm getting at. You don't really need to change your market and go into an area where there is no competition. Competition is great. If there's a lot of vendors, if there's a lot of different suppliers, brands playing in one market, it is great, because that means a lot of money to be made in that market. It's just that you have to jostle with a lot of competition. So stay in the same market, but use better tools, use better weapons, bring better weapons to the game. So in the computer gaming kind of scenario, bring a better avatar with a lot more powers to the same game, where you can, you have more elbow room, you take away a larger share of the market. So play in the same market, but with better tools. Now, before we go to the actual tools, we'll just quickly go into the mindset item, which is how you build your influence. So at the end of the day, you will be paid if you solve a problem, either for the customer or for your employer. And it is the perception of how well you can solve that problem versus other people that will decide your survival and also your price point in the market. It is the perception that you are the right person who can solve my problem better than all the others, right? And that comes from a personal influence standpoint. And that is very, 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 very relevant in today's market. That is building your personal influence yourself. Let me just quickly escape and just watch the comments over here in case there's something I'm missing. Alrighty, Arnab, you're still there? That's really nice to see. Hey man, Chayan, what's happening? Thank you for that, my friend. All right, okay. Now, why do we talk about influence at the five stages of influence at a personal level? Because the rise of the internet and social media has democratized your voice and my voice. In the old times, people would spend 40 years building a specialty, and then they would, at the time of retirement, actually probably go ahead and write a book and then utilize their industry connections to make sure that a publisher would accept it and publish it. Right, so the whole thing was in the hands of your industry connections, your publisher. You needed to build it for 30 or 40 years before you could literally, at the time of retirement, you could literally maybe publish a book or something. So in today's times, it's not like that. You can actually grow your influence pretty fast if you don't think in a linear fashion, if you think about putting your footprint in different buckets all the time. So what are the different buckets? The level 1 of influence is basically a done for you service. So if you're in a service where you do something either for your employer or for your client, if you're a developer, if you're a photographer, if you're a doctor, certain kinds of doctors, not all of them. And then if you're a chartered accountant who's helping companies do stuff, or who's helping individuals get their income tax returns out. You're basically in a done for you service. That is level 1 of influence. Only your immediate customers know you, and if you're good at what you do, only your immediate customers or your employer knows you. The second level is done with you, which is you do half of this and I will process all of this. Okay, so you can have many more customers, and what you can do is you have a templated format of what they need to give you, and then all you need to do is look at the template and utilizing your expertise in the industry, process it in some fashion. So your time gets leveraged better and you can handle more customers, and your influence is obviously higher. There's a level 3 of influence, which is hyper specialized, some very, very specialized doctors, some very specialized lawyers. Then you have companies which are hyper specialized in providing services which are one-on-one, which is basically I will consult you, I will tell you the solution to your problem, but I will not work with you or work for you. Okay, so that is level 3. The level 4 is where you have group consulting, group coaching, public speaking, and that whole industry where you have one to many. I'm sitting here and I have 50 people in my workshop, and then I'm giving them information, and they've signed up for that workshop for 3,000 or 6,000 rupees. And if I can get 40 people to fill a room, then just think about how much money I can carry home for that one day of work. And then the level 5 is an ecosystem based. So I've done a whole entire video on this. You can just scroll down on the Startup Frat business page and watch this video. The level 5 is an ecosystem where not only can you bring a prospect in, they can actually buy an entry level service from you where they can get socialized, not a very high risk thing for them. And then they say, okay, this guy, I seem to understand and relate to what this person is saying. Then they go and buy your consultation, and then they go and buy something else. And the overall average lifetime value for a customer is maximized over a period of time. Okay, that goes with companies who created entire ecosystems like Amazon. So literally Amazon loses money if you buy anything worth 200, 300, 400, 500 rupees, because they actually absorb all that cost of getting it from China and shipping it over to you in the space of one day and charging you rock bottom price for it. But over a period of time, as the confidence grows, you're going to buy your TV from Amazon, you're going to buy your fridge from Amazon, and over there, what typically happens is over the lifetime value of a customer, they end up being profitable. So while all of the other retail stores, etc., they're going out of business, Amazon, even at a very low profit margin, is the biggest, the most valuable company in the world, because they have a customer for life. Once a customer buys from Amazon, they are never going back to any other retail store, retail platform, online app, anything like that. So over a period of time, if you want to have the maximum lifetime value, which means you find the customer once and they will do business for you for life, not only on one product line, but on multiple product lines. In fact, everything they ever need in a particular area, they will buy from you. So that's how influence works. So if you're in a one-on-one consulting level, what you would ideally do is you need to go downstream and build a small product that people can consume off the shelf that they don't need your intervention for. And then you need to build higher product lines which people can consume in a different format where it takes less and less from your side to produce it, but more and more people can get impacted. And we'll just talk about some of these techniques over here in this section, which is called Ascend the Food Chain. How are you liking this stuff so far? Do you think this is valuable, folks? Just let me know. Okay. Now the next is, how do you ascend the food chain? First of all, instead of a linear, you need to have a full stack footprint, which is if you are at a particular level on the influence spectrum, you need to have downstream products which people can literally buy off the shelf, and then you need to have upstream products which educate not only the customer about your industry, it educates other players also about your industry. So for example, if you're in the restaurant business, with so many restaurants coming up today, and there being a glut of restaurants in the market, that literally Zomato is literally willing to give you 50% discount if you just book through their app and all that, Zomato Gold and all. That's because the restaurants are hurting. And if you were a restaurant, what you would also do in addition to your core business, which could be do it for you, which is you come to my restaurant, we'll feed you food, etc. What you would also do is you would also create a little bit of education around what are the different types of restaurants you should go to. Not only that, you will create content that is useful to other restaurant owners, saying that the 15 different things you need to look at before setting up your own restaurant, the 20 different things you need to look at before setting up your own eat out, take out shop, how to get partnered with Swiggy, how to get partnered with Zomato, how we improved our business by 40% just by adding takeout to our menu. A lot of top restaurants are doing that. A lot of restaurants who used to be snooty earlier are now happy to make food for you and send it to you via Swiggy because they're hurting for the business. Now all you need to do is create some value around what are the best practices in the industry, and literally give that value to other people, which could include your competition. Now when you do that, it may not necessarily be a for-profit product. You may actually not really make any money off those consultations, but what you do is it's a signaling item. It signals that you are an authority in that industry. And when that happens, not only does business come to you from customers, business comes to you from competition, because they'll say, hey, why don't you join my board as a consultant and just help us out, set this place up. And the third thing is you get a lot of visibility in the investor lobby. So if a multinational chain comes and they want to set up like 5 restaurants in your town, then all that signaling that you've done and established yourself as an authority in the L3 or L4 space, they will say, hey, what we would like you to do is come and work with us in our team, and we'll give you stock options, etc., and just help us set up these 5 restaurants or a chain of stores or restaurants in your city. And that's when you start getting into the L5 segment, which is you're creating an ecosystem, just like Starbucks is like an ecosystem. You have a Starbucks literally on every corner, and Starbucks is there, or Cafe Coffee Day is there in literally everybody's life, right? There are people who literally have that coffee they need that every single day, especially if you open it in IT parks, etc. Now what did these people have to do is, when all these foreign chains had to come to India, including McDonald's, they needed Indian partners. And whom did they choose? They chose only the top, the most visible experts in the industry to partner with them. So so you need downstream products that people can literally, utilizing your brand, people can literally say, okay, I trust this brand, I'm just going to order some stuff just right off the shelf. And then there are upstream products which are more educational in nature, which can feed your competition but establish you across the different footprints of L2, L3, L4, and potentially L5. And that way, the attention, you don't need to go out and grab attention and grab business and fight for business every day. The business flows to you. This is not easy to do. It may take a year or two to do, but this is a mindset item. If you apply your brains, then you can actually go and expand your footprint across all these different areas. Now, what are some of the overarching themes that will be prevalent in a post-recession or a post-slowdown market? Let me just see if I can drag this stuff. All right, can you see this very well? Great inputs. Yep, Arnav. The brand name is critical. Brand is everything, my friend. Brand is everything. Agree with you over there. Janmeet sir, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Been a long time. Glad you could join us. All right. Okay. Now, what are the overarching themes? These are the fail-safe, foolproof themes that are going to be growth areas in this post-corona era, guaranteed. The first thing is health. People are going to be more health conscious. Okay, if you can, regardless of what business you are in, if you can have a theme around health, even if you're in the restaurant business, let's say you have a restaurant where literally alcohol and all the unhealthy things are served, if you still come out with workshops on the off days saying we're going to have workshops where we will teach people on how to create healthy food recipes, we'll teach you how to do this, we'll teach you how to create continental dishes that are healthy, that you can drum up in 15 minutes. During the lockdown, people are realizing we need to have some cooking skills, because if we have literally like these 4 dishes on our spectrum, and if we get locked down, we get sick and tired of eating all that. A lot of awareness is going to come in now. So if you hold workshops which are centered around health, if you have something around immunity, if you have an educational program, if you have supplements, these things are going to do very well. So it doesn't matter what area you are in right now. If you can draw from any of these 6 areas and over an upstream or a downstream product, it will help you. It will help you. It will add income streams to your existing income stream. So if you can have anything around health, if you can have anything around career and finances, if you can have anything around, if you're a chartered accountant, in addition, if you can have a workshop around how to plan your finances, how to plan, how to get the maximum return on investment on your savings, etc. It's gonna be a smashing success. So in addition to a done for you service, a level 1 service, you're now providing a level 4 service, which is like that workshop. Okay, so anything around business growth. If you have any products, any consulting, some books, some audio programs, video programs around business growth, it's going to be big in the post-recession era, or even in the post-corona era, assuming that business stays healthy. Anything around personal improvement, there's going to be a huge burst around personal improvement now that people have had the time to look internally. They've had the time to contemplate. They've not been running around different attractions and what you call the shiny object syndrome for the last 2 weeks. 3 weeks is going to continue for another 2 weeks. In the next 4 weeks, there's going to be a lot of change with people introspecting and building new goals. And there's a lot of new things, new initiatives that people may have taken during these lockdown days, and they will want to continue with them. They will want to utilize their time better. They will want to do a little bit of exercise. They will want to do a bunch of things. So if you can have anything around the personal improvement space, and a lot of these things that I'm telling you, you can actually literally create products from your laptop right now. Okay, so you don't really need to integrate a whole lot of products from the market right now. If you can just have an educational product, which is teach people how to do 1, 2, 3 items, whatever it is that is an area of passion for you. Now, my education is the medical field, but my area of passion is in the money and business growth space. What am I doing during recession? I'm built out a video a day from some of my passion areas, from what I see. I could be wrong on some of these projections. Maybe the economy won't get hit so bad. I don't care. I'm just putting some material out so that over a period of time it cements it. Maybe I'll add a product line to my income. I don't know, but it cements. It helps me put a footprint in different spaces, right? So right now I do a little bit of L4 stuff where I do workshops, and then I do in-person consulting for corporates and things like that. But who knows, maybe I'll come up with a digital product or something. So personal improvement, business growth, career, finances, health. What is the next one? Relationships. If you have a passion, if you have any insight around how to improve relationships with people in general, energy, healing, if you have minimalism, how to kind of utilize so areas where you are thinking about either spousal relationship, family relationships, how to be a better parent, how to be better with kids, and then you go into the abstract areas, which is how to be a better person, how to concentrate the energies of your mind, how to be into sound healing, how to heal yourself and not. So a lot of this whole energy kind of areas are doing very nice right now, and they're going to continue to do well. Again, because over a period of time, people during this time will realize that we are becoming as a society very, very consumer driven and very, very materialistic. And during this phase, they will realize, no, I need to connect back with my higher self. So that's a huge potential area. And then there is entertainment and gaming and TikTok. A lot of people would have probably developed a passion for games because they've been playing them during this time. A lot of corporate professionals probably on PUBG right now, developing their skills. So if you have TikTok is huge. I mean, if you can have educational content on TikTok right now, is pure play entertainment. But if you can have educational content on TikTok, I kid you not, you're going to find a fortune in TikTok, because literally the TikTok's adoption has gone up so much just because people are sitting at home and they've done their Netflix for 2 hours, they've done their Facebook, made calls to all their relatives checking if everybody is safe. And literally TikTok is, as of right now, it's literally brainless micro entertainment, the 5-second, 10-second clips and all that. But what TikTok has done is created a huge amount of audience. So if you can literally create micro learning and go to TikTok and then micro learning on Instagram, which is the less than 1 minute videos and things like that, then then that's a huge opportunity over there. So here's just some of the items that I have based on my own thought process, and these are just areas. We have literally hundreds of things you can do in these 6 niches, and I'll probably do a separate video around it. And plus, I'm taking coaching for how to create a digital product from India's leading coach called Siddharth Rajshekharan. He has put out this this PDF. I was attending a coaching with him on webinar, and he literally put out at least 100 sub niches inside these areas, saying these are the different things you can do. It's really very complicated. Maybe I'll do a video on it someday. Anyway, so these are some of the overarching themes. Even if you can, kind of ensconce your current business inside any of these themes. If you have a restaurant, just do a health theme or a business theme. What are the different finances involved in setting up a restaurant? If you create a course around it, that course could sell for maybe 50,000 rupees per download easily. If there are serious people who want to get into that game, they're coming with a whole lot of budget. They're coming with a budget of 50 lakhs, a crore, maybe 2 crores, 3 crores. They don't mind spend 50 grand in figuring out from an established restaurant or what it takes to set up a successful restaurant, what are the different facets, etc. How do you do weekend events? How do you utilize your space on the weekdays when there is not a whole lot of crowd coming in, etc. You can really do a lot of things over here. So you can, from whatever your current business is, you can set up a layer over it, or you can set up products under it, which is the really commoditized products. Don't even talk to me, just buy it off my website and things like that. So these are the ones, these are some of the ideas how you can add income streams. Then again, a mindset item, some of the items that are really useful, and they have been useful to me in the past, is that the world is reeling under information overload today. The world is reeling under information overload today. So what's happening is that there's a whole lot of information. People's curiosity is aroused, but they do not have. It's complicated in their mind. They watch so much of YouTube, watch so much of Facebook, that everything becomes complicated in their mind, and they end up thinking that all of this stuff is great to consume, but maybe I can never do something because there's so much of knowledge out there. I will never be able to do this. While in reality, the actionable knowledge is less than 2% of what's there on the internet. There are literally bloggers who have made an entire living out of talking about 20 different points on how to select a good cell phone, when there's like literally 3 points on how to select a good cell phone, right? So when you watch some information like this, your brain goes into an overdrive and you're like, oh my God, this is complicated. So what you do is, if you can absorb any kind of complexity for your customer, whether it's in the information education domain or whether it's in the hard products domain. I'll give you the example of Amazon. People say, well, Amazon is an e-commerce company. It's not. Amazon owns the largest fleet of airplanes in the world. Amazon owns most of the shipping routes. They have their own ships doing freightage. They own the largest warehouses space in the world. In the old days, it used to be McDonald's because they had 28,000 restaurants, and all the real estate was managed by the McDonald's company. So they were the largest real estate holder in the world. Today, it is Amazon. They have the largest amounts of warehouse space in the world. They have 600,000 employees in the US. I mean, they are one of the biggest employers. So what they've done is they have absorbed the complexity of the customer, which is the customer wants to buy something. Then the customer takes their car out, they go to a different place, invest 20 minutes of their time, then they waste an hour of their time trying to look for something, and they find that the exact model that they wanted is not even in stock. So they just wasted an hour of time, right? Not only that, the only time when a customer has time to shop for things like groceries, for example, is on Sunday. And it is a hellhole going to a grocery store on Sunday, because guess what? Everybody's there on a Sunday. You literally have to stand in very long lines. You don't find parking, etc. A lot of complexity in the retail domain they have sorted out for customers. You don't need to worry. Whenever you have time, you can place an order. Instead of you coming to my store, I will get it delivered to you. Not only that, I'll get anything in the world delivered to you right at your doorstep, even if I have to get it all the way from China overnight, right? So in order to do that in the hard product space, they don't make anything of their own. but they have figured out how to get anything over to you in the cheapest possible price over from China tonight without you ever stepping out of your house. So they have absorbed all that complexity. Okay, iPhone did that. The iPhone absorbed all that complexity that you had to do on a laptop. They put it inside a phone, and right from the next day, the world changed. So with your product, if you can absorb complexity from your customer, then even with your service or even with your education, then that's going to be an overarching theme over there. And then if there is any kind of information overload that you can clear out and give people actionable information, which is I can help you do 1, 2, and 3 things, and within 30 to 60 days I'll get you this result, then you have a space in the market. So be in the results market, don't be in the skills market, because going back to some of the, how the industry has grown and died, the skills market is not a great market. I'll just go back right down to demand and supply and just tell you the stories of my own personal experience. So back in the post 9/11, post 2001 era, when US businesses were hurting, there was a slowdown, etc. They said, hey, let's kill all of the business functions that are there that we can actually outsource, which is customer support and doing online ticketing, etc., and let's find somebody who can do it for us at cheaper cost. And they came over to India, and that was the boom of the BPO space. And a lot of people may have worked in BPOs during their college days and things like that. And that was that was the growing market over there. The demand supply situation was favorable, but over a period of time, the demand for that kind of a service went down, because more and more people are now basically, they just want to go online, check out how to fix stuff themselves. They don't want to call someone anymore. So that industry is in doldrums. Then you had high ticket selling over the phone, which is the industry that I belong to. High ticket selling on the phone, we could actually go ahead and call companies on behalf of our client and talk about deals which were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, they did not really need a rocket scientist to do that on the phone. They said we can have anybody who speaks good English and understands basic technology to do it. And then, the demand for that market went up. Today, all of that is run by algorithms, and people literally go and they search themselves on what is a good software solution to buy, etc. Most software solutions are not even installations these days. They're apps. People can literally, the whole organization can get 10,000 licenses for $1 per month per user, and basically just try out an app for a month, and if it doesn't work for them, they can change it out. So the complexity around that has reduced, and that's why the demand around that segment has fallen. So which brings us to the next area, which is software development. A lot of the demand around that is kind of going to go away, because the app architecture is now getting simplified. All you need to do is use reusable elements, modular elements, and you can actually create your own app literally from your smartphone today. And if it becomes a hit, you're off to the races. Just to give you an example of WhatsApp, it was created by literally 2 bankrupt people sitting in their garage, and it is the exact same app today. So those are some of the lessons. I hope you had some value in hearing this. And if you have any questions, you can either ask me here or just send it over into the group. Let me just see how I can just get this thing in one place. So that's pretty much going to be it. And I agree with you, Arnab. YouTube provides a great treasure of knowledge, but I buy a lot of courses, by the way, online. I buy a lot of courses online. But YouTube provides a great treasure of knowledge. It's great to get the concepts up. It's great to get the mindset up. It's great to get socialized with this stuff. But if you want to have actionable information, which is how can I do 1, 2, and 3, the information over there is unstructured. It's a lot of good amount of knowledge. I'm on YouTube Premium. I watch YouTube Premium literally 4 hours of the day, because that's my source of information. But when it comes to actually learning to do something tangible, then it becomes, we need a little more structure over there. So if you can provide anything that is structured knowledge, if you can do courses, I mean, education, e-education in India is it's like some 3,000 crore rupee a year potential market or something. I think I saw some news article on that. Maybe I'll retrieve it and share it in the group. But e-education is big time. If you can just take some ideas on what is trending in YouTube and then figure out how to create a course around it so it becomes tangible and actionable, then that is something that people are going to really value a lot. And with delivery, you can literally deliver the whole education over the internet today for free. Even if you sell your course, you see so many ads on Facebook, people selling courses on how to do this, how to do that, and the courses are like some 700-800 rupees, 900 rupees. It's a no-brainer. If I can pay 900 rupees, get a course, and it teaches me how to do, let's say, gardening, how to fill up your own entire terrace with what kind of plants are the ones that survive in summer without water, what are the plants that provide more oxygen indoors, what are the plants that provide more fragrance. You can, if for 900 rupees somebody can provide me that information, I'll just buy it right now. I won't even think about it twice. And how much they will just have to create that course once, and they can literally sell it forever until things change in that industry or whatever. So it's literally right now, I think that's an amazing area. You can actually do all your market research on YouTube, just see what's trending, and then build a structured course which helps people do 1, 2, 3, 4. Where do you find this? Where do you find that? Where do you buy this from? How do you set this up? Boom. In 7 days, you will have your own garden in the terrace with overhanging plants, with yellows and greens and reds, some nice fragrance. On top of that, you can buy these 4 plants which are oxygen bombs for internal inside the house use. If you can create a course like that for $800-900, $1,000-1,500 is going to be a super hit, I feel. So yeah, this has been great so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to download this mind map as PDF and share it in the group. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Vivek, my friend, for helping me with all of this stuff as usual. And thanks, Chen. I think he's already left, but thank you for sharing the feed. Appreciate it. So I look forward to seeing you. Some of the more focused content I provide inside the group, like I said, is facebook.com/groups/startup-frat, and I do exclusive content in there 2 to 3 times a week. So if you haven't joined yet, do join us. We'll have some good fun. All right, thanks for joining. I'll see you later. Bye bye.